Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer. Welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film, and we're making our way into 1932 with John Ford, and almost wrapping up 2023, and then I'll still have a whole other year of John Ford. But joining me is one of my most frequent collaborators, my buddy Foster. Foster, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
We'll be talking about airmail, but for those who haven't tuned into the show before, we have three segments. We have coming attractions for November 10th, and then we'll have our feature film airmail, and then we have some recommendations to send you home with if airmail isn't enough of a recommendation. But let's get things started with our coming attractions. This is an interesting week because it is a Marvel release weekend, but also there's a lot of big films making like awards season kinds of films making either limited, expanded, or streaming releases this weekend. But Foster, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, there's two, the Holdovers and the Killer, both of which I think some people have already seen because there
Yeah.
have been limited releases, but Holdovers expands this weekend and the Killer comes on Netflix. So the Holdovers, I'm excited for Alexander Payne and Paul Giamatti.
Mhm.
So they're reuniting from Sideways, which is great. But Paul Giamatti, especially, I just love him, and I feel like he's been like trapped on Billions for like the past 5 years, and so he's not really been in a lot of movies recently. So I'm just kind of excited, and I think that poster of him, just the like freeze frame of his face, like mid, scream or whatever he's about to do,
Yeah.
it's just an all-timer, like all-timer facial expression. I think it's so good.
Yeah, I love the period feel to this. I love the trailer. It has a very old school kind of trailer feel, and then the music and everything. And Paul Giamatti's great. And from I wasn't expecting this, but what I've been seeing on early buzz for Best Actor, he might be one of the Best Actor nominees, which he was holding the spot that I thought Joaquin Phoenix would
Hmm.
for Napoleon, which I haven't seen Napoleon yet either. So I can't speak to actually seeing it, but Paul Giamatti's up there, so that's pretty exciting. And yeah, Alexander Payne makes some great movies, and I can't wait to experience that kind of world that he makes because they're realistic, but also like quirky in
Hmm.
a certain way, but not like Wes Anderson quirky, where you think you're looking at artificial world kind of quirky. But and then the other one was The Killer. So what are you excited about that?
Yeah, David Fincher. I mean, that's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
He's like a top three director for me. I will watch anything and everything he makes. I mean, I love the serial killer movies. I can't lie. Like this is like
Yeah.
Zodiac and Seven and like all those. So like the fact that he's just making a movie called The Killer, like he's just clearly leaning into it like crazy. I think from the people who have seen this movie, it's supposed to be almost like a little bit of like David Fincher is just self-aware of his own brand and is just leaning into it now. And so I think there might be some stuff you can read into the movie in that way. But I mean, Michael Fassbender, I feel like is a perfect match for this.
Mhm.
Just have you seen the trailer for this?
I have actually avoided watching the trailer for
It's
this.
so good. It's like one of those trailers that's like on its own. It's its own little work of art. It's just Michael Fassbender's narration and it's the Trent
Mhm.
Reznor Atticus Ross score. It's so good. And Tilda Swinton's supposed to be in this as well. So, oh man, I'm all over this already. I already love it, and I haven't even seen it.
I'm a big Fincher fan. I think Michael Fassbender has been gone too long from us in terms of performing because he hasn't been in a film in a couple years. So it's pretty exciting to see him back with this and Next Goal Wins. And I can't speak to the trailer, as I just said, I hadn't watched it, but you do love a good trailer. I do miss that second Killers of the Flower Moon trailer.
Hmm.
Because that was one of my favorite trailers of the year. Now I'm just getting super excited every time that War Pigs, Black Sabbath, Napoleon trailer comes on because
Hmm.
I'm so down for that.
Yep.
But definitely this is going to be well, this is actually a really interesting thing because Foster and I are actually going to be seeing some of these movies together in New York, but I certainly will be watching The Killer on Friday night on Netflix and then be seeing The Holdovers and my choice Dream Scenario, most likely, as this is a A24 film about Nick Cage, who plays seems like a kind of just like middle of the road, weird, kind of lacking memorable college professor who keeps popping up in people's dreams. And I think he gets a kind of little carried away with it. And I can't wait to see all the crazy shit that Nick Cage does in people's dreams. Because like some of the stuff in the trailer with him like running like into a girl's bedroom, just like that's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. So, but no, this seems like such a weird movie that you needed somebody. This is like being John Malkovich weird, and you need somebody like John Malkovich weird to be in it to make this really work. And I think Nick Cage is perfectly weird to do something interesting with this. So I'm so down for this.
Oh yeah, and just the I'm just have the poster open in the other tab as you're talking. This is just like a great look. The like bald head and the side bits
The
of hair.
very obvious fake beard because it's not the same color as like the it, like Nick Cage does not shy away from wearing fake hair
Yeah.
in things.
You
It's
saw
like,
sympathy for the devil, right? With the red, like
hey, it's already been a good year for Nick Cage movies. Like, I didn't love that movie, but I loved watching every second Nick Cage was on
hmm
screen. It's one of those kinds of things. So there's definitely some movies. This is a I feel like a big indie and like cinephile weekend kind of thing, which is so weird because usually, speaking for myself, 100% speaking for myself, if a Marvel movie is coming out a weekend, it's usually my number one movie of the weekend because I'm super
Yeah.
excited about it. I just don't feel like they've done enough to make me excited about the Marvels. And there's a bunch of rumors swirling around it right now with less than a week before it comes out. And I'm like, they don't play into any of this.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'd probably would be more excited about this movie if they did.
hmm
But I don't know. I think the marketing for this has just been bad, except I do enjoy listening to the Beastie Boys every time.
Yeah.
The trailer. I'm just like, I'll listen to the Beastie Boys, but I'm not too excited for this movie, which is a shame because I really like Miss Marvel
Me too.
and her
Yes.
popping up in this. It's just I don't know if it's just the bad air around Brie Larson and Carol Danvers right now, and I think it's to the point where she doesn't even want to be here anymore because everybody's such a bunch of assholes and won't leave her alone about it.
hmm
And it's just one of those things where it's just like I can't get super excited about the Marvels while we're just laboring around waiting for like Deadpool 3 and
hmm
Captain America 4 and stuff like that to come out, hopefully,
Yeah.
ever at this rate. But we'll see. But yeah, a lot of good things for us to be looking forward to, especially for award season coming up. But we're here to talk about Airmail. And to give a little bit of background, this is obviously a John Ford film, as I've been slowly going through all of John Ford's filmography from 1932. This is the first film from 1932 that I've done on the show. This is a pre code adventure film. It is the story of Dale Van Every and Frank Spigweed. So this is based off of a couple. Yeah, those
What
are some
names?
those are some great old timey names right there. So this is based off of a couple of men's actual lives. This is starring Ralph Bellamy. For the record, one of the two brothers from Trading Places. Which that was the first thing when I saw his face. I'm like, Mortimer? And also Pat O'Brien, who's popped up in a lot of John Ford's films up to this point. Also, I would like to continue my little segment of there's a Ward Bond spotting. This is his third film of John Ford so far in the past like couple of years of his filmography. If you don't know who Ward Bond is, he's one of the stars of The Searchers. He
Okay.
plays like the he plays like the Reverend Marshall guy in it, and apparently he's been in a lot of John Ford films. So I thought it'd be funny if I keep a counter of how many times he pops up in one of these movies.
Who
He
is he in
plays
this one?
he plays a pilot at the beginning of the movie that has an unfortunate end, which I'm certainly sure we'll talk about.
Okay.
This is preserved at the Library of Congress. It's produced by Carl Laemmle Jr. So the
Mhm.
Laemmle family, one of the most prolific families in all of cinema. They had a whole separate lot that they built specifically to make all the miniatures for some of the sequences in the film. This actually caused a giant union issue with the Associated Motion Picture Pilots because they hired stunt pilots who were non-union, specifically Paul Mantz, who is like one of the main stunt pilots in the film, who was not a union worker, and this caused a whole entire union thing. So very timely, as we have a lot of film-related union issues going on right now. So thought I'd throw that in there. But Foster, what's your general thoughts on Airmail?
I thought it was pretty good. It didn't blow me away necessarily, but like I thought it was solid. Uh, I don't know. I don't have like strong thoughts one way or the other, but I thought the plane stuff was pretty impressive for the time,
Mhm.
certainly. Especially like at the end, there's like one shot where a plane is falling down towards the end that was like, oh my gosh, that like
Yeah.
like took me out because it's 1932. I thought the performances were good. There's also Gloria Stewart, right, who
Yes.
plays Ruth. Did you say that already?
I forgot to read her name as I was going
And
through.
she's
It-
she's the lady from Titanic.
yeah, Old Rose.
That was cool to see. And I think so. I watched this on YouTube. It was like an old blurry version. I don't know if you
Me
saw.
too.
Yeah, it's this is what it is. It's like I can tell the movie is wonderfully shot, but it's very hard to appreciate when you're watching it in like 144p or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
it is
the
what it is.
the one feel like the one video that they have on YouTube is not very refined, refinished.
No,
So, but my basic feelings are there's great parts of this movie, and then long parts of it I did not give a crap about.
sure.
Where it's just like the plane stuff really worked for me.
Hmm.
The stuff between Mike Miller and Duke Talbot, but what a name for a pilot, Duke
Hmm.
Talbot. Their tensions and like rivalry and not seeing eye to eye, that kind of stuff really worked for me in the film.
Yeah.
Anything romance related, I did not give a crap about, to be honest. It's just
Sure.
like Duke's having an affair with one of the other pilots' wives. Mike is trying to be supportive to the girlfriend of late pilot played by Ward Bond at the beginning of the film. That
Hmm.
kind of stuff just didn't click with me. But the stuff where it's actually dealing with the piloting and stuff like that and different perspectives and like the action, I thought was really well done. Which is like it's slightly above middle of the road for me in terms of these John Ford films so far. And it's really because it's trying to like balance these two elements that feel a little conflicting. Um, I just feel like when you're looking at this film, it's the flight sequences. Those sequences really stand out because they have an interesting mix of like camera in a plane watching another plane fly around in the air. You have miniatures, which that was very interesting looking at like this crazy like snowy mountain and like trying to land it and stuff like that. And you have like all the miniatures and stuff like that. And then the side profile of like especially towards the end of the film where they're having like a plane breaking into pieces and
Hmm.
they're trying to keep it up flying and everything, like those elements are thrilling, they work. This film's only an hour and like 24 minutes, so like a decent chunk of it focuses on, I feel like the very beginning and like the third act of this really focuses on the piloting, and everywhere else kind of gets lost in the human drama of it. That's a mixed bag, but I
Hmm.
definitely think the piloting parts worked.
Yeah, I basically agree with you. This so like the stuff right at the beginning and the end I thought was really good. And then I liked the like our two leads basically, like Ralph Bellamy and Pat O'Brien. I liked both of those characters. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't have too many deep thoughts about this one. You've kind of summarized it for me.
I do have a couple other things I'm going to throw out there. That opening sequence is great.
Hmm.
Like the burning plane, the pyro, and also those horrifying screams. I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh
Yeah.
wow, this is actually like hitting. And
Hmm.
like they go dark. Like they pull a gun and shoot Ward Bond to like kill him so he doesn't burn alive.
Hmm.
Like put him out of his misery. I'm just like, wow, this movie started really dark.
Yeah.
And it didn't really keep that, to be honest, which
Sure.
is interesting.
Yeah.
Uh and like I mentioned, I like the very restrictive, strict by the book Bellamy versus like this rebel pirate Duke played by Pat O'Brien, which I feel like if this movie came out 10 years later, John Wayne would have played Duke Talbot.
Hmm.
Um, even called Duke. And I do have to mention some of the side humor. You can definitely tell this is pre-code because they make a lot of alcohol, which honestly, some of them got a good laugh out of me. Like the one
Hmm.
where it's just like where Bellamy grabs the alcohol from O'Brien's character and he's just like,
Hmm.
you can't have this here, and then sends it out to the one guy. He's like, destroy this. He's like, yeah, I'll destroy it. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be laughing this hard at that, but like that actor played that had really
Hmm.
good comedic timing with it. But like I feel like those little sprinklings throughout with some fun humor there. But like yeah, the tone of this was very interesting because this started off real serious. And
Yeah.
obviously there's real weight to this story because it's life and death. That Top Gun Maverick ending. Uh,
Hmm.
one of them crashes and then somebody has to save them. Uh, but like it's one of those kinds of things where it's a bit of a mixed bag. And I feel like what's beneficial is the fact that it's only an hour and 24 minutes. Like
Hmm.
if this was a full 2 hour movie where I had to spend like an hour and 20 minutes of this with this drama, these romances and stuff, I would have been like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not dealing with this. But like it's much more brief and compact. So I think it has that going for it, which I don't think is on purpose. It's just the fact that most films are that length at this point, I feel like. But anyway, um unless you make like 3 hour silent like early talky epics, but I don't think John Ford's going to be doing that.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Foster?
Yeah, I mean, now that you're talking, I'm thinking of a couple other things. But like it does have a sense of humor. Like you're saying, there was one, it's very minor. It's not even like that funny, but it just made me chuckle. It was Mike Miller was wanting to go out and deliver the mail after the one guy had crashed. And then like one of his co-pilots or something is telling him like, hey, you should let Duke do this. He's a better pilot than you every day of the week or something like that. And he's like, hey, I don't pay you to tell me this. And he's like, this is for free. That made me laugh. It's like, whoa,
that's that's
zinger.
like that old school greatest generation sense of humor is a lot of fun.
I know. I'm gonna poke you in the jaw, someone said at one point. I can't even remember the context, but it's like I like the way they talk. Also like just the way it's shot is really good, and I wish I could have seen it in a better quality because I think aside from the flying scenes, there's a lot of great stuff in the base where they are. Like you're just seeing them sat in front of the windows, and then the windows have like the fog in the corners of the
Yeah.
windows, and you can see through the window. It's like layers. It's really really great. And then I also, with the ending that I really liked, when Duke goes up to the guy who's making the announcement about Mike Miller having crashed the plane and saying he's too far, there's no way to find him, and then he just goes, and
And just blows by him, gets in the plane, it's like, see ya. That's such a like a big man moment of
yeah.
just like they're casually like, we'll never be able to save him. It's just like, yeah,
Hmm.
okay. And just blows by them, gets in the plane, just goes off. And I thought that was some interesting production design with
Hmm.
like the mountain and like that very narrow setup and everything. So
Yeah.
but yeah, this had it. It's starting to get into the point where it's like these are feeling like real full movies at this
Hmm.
point in John Ford's career, and like there's some really great ones that I've watched so far very recently, and this one I think is it's a really solid film
Yeah.
that definitely leans into it's an adventure film, it's an action
Mm.
film, it's planes, love planes,
Yeah.
and but yeah, so this film as we wrap up before we get into our recommendations. Um, Making my way on through all of our John Ford films here. But next week, I'm going to be having my buddy Griff coming on. And actually, no, that's 2 weeks. Next week, our buddy Rowan, who's going to be coming on to talk about Dr. Bull, which is oddly enough the second movie in the past 3 weeks about a doctor. So I guess John Ford has certain professions that he likes as well. But Foster, as we get into our recommendations, what would you like to recommend?
Okay, my recommend is a movie from 1995 called Safe. This is a Todd Haynes movie, which I'm watching because I've never seen a Todd Haynes movie, and he has May December coming out pretty soon with
Mhm.
Julianne Moore also, who's in Safe. And this is like his, I wouldn't say this is his most famous movie, but it's like if you're a Todd Haynes fan, this is kind of the one. That's the reputation it has. Like I think it has a Criterion release too. Um, yeah, this was the first Todd Haynes movie I'd ever seen. He's also done things like Carol, but I thought this was great. Um, it almost feels like a Kubrick movie, just in terms of the like precision and control, and the tone. It's like slow paced, but it's not boring. It's like you're lulled into it almost, and you're just kind of on the edge of your seat waiting for something to happen, and it just makes like every little moment feel important. So the premise is basically Julianne Moore's character starts having an illness, and it turns out that it's caused by the environment. So there's this thing called environmental illness, which I guess was like a thing, like decades ago or whatever. People who watch this movie, apparently it's like you can put your own metaphor onto it, basically. Like maybe it's the AIDS crisis, or maybe it's maybe it's just like white suburban women who like to, take things to the extreme or whatever. Like it can be a million different things. And I think Todd Haynes has even said as much, that like it is about a lot of different things. Julianne Moore is incredible in this movie, and I think this is my favorite performance I've ever seen from her. And like I've seen her in a lot of great things, like Still Alice or Magnolia or whatever, and I think this is the best. She was amazing in this. Um, Xander Berkeley is like the only other name that I remember from this movie who plays her husband.
Yeah, it looks
So
like a
anyways,
Dean Norris
he's
from.
in it for all of like 16 seconds. He plays a mover who brings in a sofa. That's it.
Oh,
That's
well,
it.
that's interesting, seeing as he has like third billing on IMDb.
I know. I have no. I don't know. I don't know why that is, because I missed him when I watched the movie. I actually went back and I was like, I gotta find where he was in this, and it was nothing almost. But
Wow.
like there's moments that are like quietly funny, that just like funny as in like looking at the absurdity of the situation. Julianne Moore's also doing this like real like she's going for it with her voice in this character. Her voice is just like up here the whole time, and she just talks like this. And then the doctor is asking her, because she's sick, asking her all these questions, and she's like, "No, I don't do this. I'm just a milkaholic," because she drinks a lot of milk. And it's like these things are just said like almost deadpan, and it just like kind of takes me by surprise. I don't know. It's a really interesting movie, very smart, and you just feel like Todd Haynes knows exactly what he's trying to do when he's filming it. It's one of those like, all right, I'm in the hands of a master. I'm just gonna let it wash
Mhm.
over me. One of those movies. So strong recommend.
Interesting. It appears I already had it on my watch list of like 1,300 movies. So maybe I'll get to it eventually. But I might have my three standard recommendations. One, new film, which I was originally going to put Sly. Really enjoyed that
Okay.
documentary on Netflix until I watched the Caine Mutiny court martial this morning in prepping for Rowan in the Wasteland. I low key loved this movie. Like it had me engrossed, it pulled me in, and all the way up to literally the final minutes of the film, just like pulls a rug out from under you. It is such a great like capstone to William Friedkin's career, and even having like Lance Reddick was in it as well. Um, I guess Jason Clark really likes playing like interrogators in like a courtroom or deposition setting after Oppenheimer and this. So, but it's definitely a big recommend for me. It's on Showtime slash Paramount Plus. So if you have Paramount Plus, you can watch it. It's literally, Foster, did you get the chance to watch it yet?
No, I would like to. I don't know when I'll get to it, but
It is literally almost the whole entire film is in one room. It's
oh,
one of
I
those
like that.
kinds. Yeah.
Okay.
Number two is Funeral Parade of Roses, and this is a 1969 film that Rowan and I also did for Rowan in the Wasteland. This had been on my watch list because it was in some book that I read, one of those 101 or 1001 movies you need to see before you die. It is a
Hmm.
trans story mixed with a Oedipus adaptation. And it is wild. It is an interesting look at 1969 Japan and how like trans community was, and then also how it has an interesting twist on the Oedipus story, also fascinating. I also would like to know if the filmmaker that created Old Boy watched this movie,
Hmm.
because there's some interesting parallels to how they deal with some of the story,
Oh
which is
boy.
interesting. Yeah.
Yikes.
So, but it's a fascinating film. And then my rewatch, which is this is the Wasteland Vintage Roadshow episode that was going to be coming out at the beginning of December, is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm.
Rewatched this with my lovely 4K steelbook that I have of the film. This is one of my favorite films of all time. It is an incredible exploration in science fiction and has layers upon layers of all different kinds of things, from evolution to geopolitics to artificial intelligence, human nature, all rolled into one. And one of the most diabolical villains in all of cinema, as I stare at my HAL 9000 ornament that I have sitting over there. Um, and also the Dawn of Man sequence is one of my favorite sequences in any film ever. So, yes, I highly recommend 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you don't like hard science fiction, don't watch this, because that's what it is. So don't go expecting like Star Wars or something like that, because it's not. People don't say a word for like 25 minutes in the movie. So, but anyway, it's Kubrick. But Foster, thank you so much for coming on as always.
Thank you for bringing me back as always.
And Foster will be coming back for his next film will be The Plow and the Stars, but that won't be until January, since I actually have some people who want to come on for some of these episodes now, besides my rotation of familiar faces.
Hmm.
But thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.